pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to the Vlog-A-Thon. So, right off the bat, I'm gonna say here that this room is pretty much well insulated by now, and of course, did have to remove the red sweater, so now it's just this. But aside from that, there pretty much is a lot that I'm gonna want to talk about. Although I feel like that the cold is just starting to get to me at this point, so might have to put the sweater back on. But till then, I feel like I've got plenty of time to at least arrange a few new additions to the Vlog-A-Thon itself. At least with this part here. Because I'm not really sure what the future of it is going to be like. Well anyways, I guess me talking about my filmmaking talent and the fact that I'm able to accomplish so much when doing so, there's just so much ideas that I've been able to put together. And now I might as well talk a little bit about the past when it comes to my filmmaking. After all, Kaiju Force Neo has been around for 15 years now, and pretty soon it's going to be turning 16. As a matter of fact, January 1st, 2021 is already going to be a pretty busy day for me. But it just keeps on getting better and better. So anyways, filmmaking past. Yeah, this is a big story here. That's all true, all honest, and I will say that there is in fact a lot that I will be able to point out for today. So what I can say for sure about Kaiju Force Neo based on filmmaking in the past is that, well, ever since Kaiju Force Neo had originally started, I was already pretty well experienced with handling cameras of whatever sorts. Because even though I wasn't even 6 years old in 2005, at the time when Kaiju Force Neo first began as a whole, starting as the name Wandoff, after a pet fish of mine had passed away back in summer 2004, of course. So I will say for sure that, well, as Wandoff, it still was quite a big deal for me. Because why else do you think I would have been able to come this far in the business itself? Well, in all honesties, there really is a lot to expect. Because what I can tell you from my own perspective by now is that, first of all, Kaiju Force Neo, as Wandoff, by the way, had already become a name of mine that I was in fact hoping to spread amongst the rest of the world. But in 2006 was when I felt like putting this new name to the test and using it as the official name brand that I would use in terms of simply linking it together with any new and upcoming feature film projects that I would have along the line. Whether or not I'd be spending a lot of time with my filmmaking during those times, it was all up to chance. And more importantly, because I was heading over to school during the remainder of the 2000s, it was all up to whatever time I had on my hands. But in 2006, I was able to accomplish a few things here and there. And as a matter of fact, since Kaiju Force Neo's first inception and birth, 2006 did in fact become not only a year to where its official Twitter account had first been created, but it was also the first ever feature film production that I was able to put together under the name Kaiju Force Neo. Because of course, as a matter of fact, dating back to how far my family itself had gone back into filmmaking, they had originally been doing it as far back as 1990. Yes, 15 years before Kaiju Force Neo would even come around and would eventually claim the family business itself. That was its own feature film business in and of itself. It wasn't necessarily something that was meant for profits, but it was more of something meant for recreation and fun and entertainment in the localized industry that was not anything like Hollywood. Of course, there are a lot of local filmmakers out there, even to this day, that still do whatever they can. And I'd perfectly be willing to work with them by now. But 2006, of course, was a prime time for me to put together something under the name Kaiju Force Neo, because I have been able to acclaim the family's business itself. So since I am in fact now the official owner of all the properties and all the branding that's associated with all of the things that my family has put together, I can say for sure that, well, I do have a few options at this point. I can either scrap everything, I can have it all uploaded to the internet where it can stay and last for as much as possible, or of course I could just keep it with me at all costs. Now, what I would want to do at this point, with all of the films that they've put together in the 15 years that they have been doing so, up until I came up and claimed everything, with the next 15 years coming up until today, that means 30 total years of film production had all been put together, whether or not it was just me or my family doing everything themselves. Of course, my family had actually put together a grand total of 11 different films in 15 years. Yeah, that's right. They once had a film that took place back in 1982, and then of course there was another one that took place in summer 1996, which of course was one of the biggest ones that they had at the time going on. As a matter of fact, a lot of people in the family that I know of still like that production. It's simply put just a visit over to a grandparent's house where they put together a ramp and they get together and have a concert in celebration of this new event. As strange as it sounds, it still was in fact something worthwhile to look at. That film from 1996, of course I didn't see it until 2017. But looking back at it now, which might be hard for me because I only saw it once, that whole entire thing was 94 minutes long. But looking at everything that I've already accomplished since 2005, with Kaiju Force Neo's first inception and birth, then in 2006 there of course was my first ever feature film production of my own type that I was able to put together for Kaiju Force Neo itself. It was centered on spelunking for the most part. Basically, it was just me and two other people that I had along with that went along scouring in crystal mines. That was basically just that. It's just the adventures that centered around spelunking or going into cave for sport. That was basically what 2006 was in terms of my feature film productions. But that's just one out of 6 that I currently have in store. The second film, which I had back in spring of 2008, was indeed a film that took place offshore of Lake Michigan. It was supposed to center around a little boat ride that would end in tragedy, with all sorts of creatures and things out there to hunt us. There were 4 of us out there at the time portraying the main characters. And that was just 2008's film. So that was just 2 of them out of 6 that I got at the moment. Number 3, there was a film in 2012 that I was able to put together, of which that it starred me as a curator and a narrator based on paleontology. And that's basically what I play as. I play as a curator of a museum and a paleontologist who basically knows a lot about dinosaurs in the prehistoric age, and not to mention the KT event that wiped out all life on the planet associated with that whole entire tragedy itself. That was just 2012 though. But trust me or not though, that 2012 film was supposed to be a pioneer of my own type, of a few new things that would become part of Kaiju Force Neo's feature film production, probably for a while. It was supposed to have itself its own animated segment which centered on the events of the prehistoric times, and were set upon major pieces of the timeline itself that surrounded the Cretaceous period, as well as the Triassic and Jurassic period. Basically just the Mesozoic era as a whole, eventually progressing over to the Cenozoic era after the extinction, and then of course, well, all that stuff pretty much got cut. But I will say for sure that that was indeed a project that I at least tried to shift some new focus on. But then in 2014 was when things got even bigger, because that was simply a film that dated about construction on someone else's property. Basically, just my own little live-action reenactment of the Family Guy poltergeist thing which happened years back at the time. So that's pretty much it. I play as a contractor out there in the field who actually gets possessed by a string of ghosts in the film's setting itself, which basically takes place in a highly urban area, which was kind of risky at the time, but we were able to do a lot with it. And then in 2017, which was at the time my most recent outing, it was also one of those where I wanted to go ahead and establish a little trademark that would be associated with Kaiju Force Neo Productions after that one. So what did I do there? Well, 2017's film is simply put just me beginning with waking up out of bed, going to do my daily businesses, and the like. It was basically like having a live stream with a first-person sort of perspective. That's essentially what 2017's film was like. And at the time, it was my most recent outing. But then, as far back in recent times as March of 2019, was when I wanted to create a sixth outing for my feature film production repertoire that I've already established. I've already gotten 5 other films in the past 13 years at the time, and as a result of that, summer of 2019 was when I attempted to create my first ever adaptation. And as for the source material, where it comes from, well, it was my own web series, which was popular, of course, Nerf Secret Revealed. And yes, that's when Nerf Secret Revealed Bolts of Intrigue was originally supposed to come around, in summer of 2019. August 15th, 2019 was when I had actually released a shortened film. Because of constant delays and pushbacks and the like, and not to mention I was really busy handling a lot of jobs during those times. So of course, summer 2019 wasn't necessarily a good time to put together a long feature film production like that. But looking back at that, I feel like that I really could have put in a lot more effort into it and actually had it released during that time, so that way I guess I wouldn't have to worry too much about it. But now, here in December 2020, well after that time, I gotta say, my 6th and current outing that I have, Nerf Secret Revealed Bolts of Intrigue, it still has yet to be released. And there's only one reason for that. This is in fact the feature film production, one of the first, that I was able to get a lot of help out there. So much of the community had known my work already. I was able to showcase bits and pieces of some of my previous projects. But unfortunately, because of the closure of my first Twitter account back in December 2019, it unfortunately has been taken down with it. So, that officially means that there's no more evidence of the fact that I had those feature film productions done back in the day. So, that's another good reason as to why I still feel awfully devastated about the whole thing in general, but can you blame me? Twitter was attacking my accounts, left and right. And not just the first one, but also the second one. Because they decided to pull the plug on the second one and just blackmail me into removing one of them. That is just sinister in and of itself. And because I no longer have any existing concrete evidence that supports all of my now known claims about how my feature film production industry had 5 outings at the time, and that there's now a 6th one coming out, I mean, I don't even know what to do at this point. But I'm just gonna try to step back from that stuff and have my 6th outing out and about as soon as possible. I do have it set for a release, a final release, January 1st, 2021. This would in fact make it nearly 4 years after my 5th outing had come out. So of course, that's just all you need to know about the past based on my official outings in the feature film production industry of mine that I've got. Even to this day, there still is a lot that I would like to work with, but looking back at everything I've already done and accomplished, I gotta say, now might be a good time to start talking a little bit more about some other things that associates with my feature film production as of now. So, you know what? I guess that's pretty much all I gotta talk about all that. But you'll be seeing a lot more. A lot more. If you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.